Hey everyone, we're going to talk today about how to actually send over other types of statements rather than what's inside of Storyline by default. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, welcome back. My name is Jeff Batt, and if you haven't checked out my website already, go ahead and check out learningdojo.ninja. Here you can check out all my previous blog posts and training. You can also check out templates, and I have templates on Articulate Storyline 360, and then I also have xAPI and video templates as well. And then also full courses, everything you need to know about these different tools from A to Z, Articulate Storyline 360, Adobe Captivate, xAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, and HTML5 video. If you haven't checked out my previous videos all about xAPI and Storyline, go ahead and check those out right now. And you can see how to send over statements in general. Now, there are some statements that get sent over to the Learning Record Store automatically through Storyline. We don't really have much control over that. I really wish that we did, but you can send over other statements and trigger statements throughout the course itself. And there's a good list of the type of statements that you can send over, but there's different types of verbs that are not part of the drop-down box. And so I wanted to show you how to use other types of verbs that are not part of the drop-down box. So let's go ahead and go into this sample course right here. And this is a Cooking 101 sample course. I'm going to go ahead and add a trigger here. And I'm going to trigger this as soon as the person comes to the page. So we're going to select the drop-down box of the action type. What do I want to do? I want to send an xAPI statement. Now, if I send an xAPI statement, these are the different types of verbs. And so it'll grab the learner. Now, keep in mind that the verb is the action. What action did the learner do? Did they experience? Did they like? Did they download? Other things like that. There's a lot of verbs that are available, and you want to describe the action in this case. So if I select this drop-down box, for some reason Storyline only includes a very small amount of verbs here. I really wish they included a lot more because these verbs are good, but they're not, always going to be used in this case. So you can see right here, abandoned, answered, asked, attempted, attended, other things like that. So a good variety here, but I wanted to find something else that I can use here. Now I'm going to put down in the comments some links to different verb registries. Now there are two out there. There is one by ADL, and you can get this link down in the comments below or in the description. And you can see here, as I start to scroll through here, all the different types of verbs. And I can keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and you can see there are a lot to choose from. And that's why if you compare this to what's inside of Storyline by default, they only have a very small snippet of verbs that you're actually using. Now, it is important to strategize on the types of verbs that you're using within your organization and how you're going to use those verbs. Because one verb may mean different things to one organization compared to another organization. And that's usually where you come up with like a strategy document where you have, okay, we're going to use this verb, and this is what it means to us. But also a combination, and that's where you get into like profiles and other things. Okay, in a video, we always send over this verb when it starts, and then this verb when it plays and pauses and so forth. Now, there are profiles that are kind of across the industry, and there's groups that are working on more profiles, but that's really where those come into play, is how do I actually use those profiles? So keep that in mind. But for now, we're just going to grab one of these verbs, and we're going to use this verb instead of the other one. So how do I do that? Well, coming into Storyline, what we're going to do, instead of selecting one from the drop-down box, I'm going to click on this plus xAPI option. Now here, there's two different things I need to replace when I'm swapping out the verb. The first thing is the verb ID, and then the second thing is the display in the verb here. Now I'm going to come over to this ADL one, and the other one that you can use, because sometimes for some reason this one goes down. I don't know why. I've had students several times saying, I can't access this website. This is, in my opinion, still the one that you'd probably want to reference because it's the most updated. This one is still kind of a good backup as well, so you can grab the ID and the verb right there. Honestly, as long as you're, keep it consistent on the type of verbs and everything, it really doesn't, it's not going to impact you too much. So now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to find a verb, and we already have the experienced one, but I'm going to say Expressed, that's a good one. So I'm going to just copy expressed here, go into storyline, and I'm going to paste it, and I can have a capital E if I wanted to, but I'm going to paste that inside of the display. Make sure that you do not get rid of the quotes. The quotes are very important because the format of this xAPI statement is within JSON, which is a data file. And it's similar to XML, but it's more flexible and robust and everything. That's why it's used. It needs to have the quote at the end and it needs to have the quote at the beginning, so don't get rid of those. The other thing I need to replace is this right here. This is the ID. This is how the Learning Record Store kind of makes sense of what action item you're sending over. And with the action item, you have a little bit, you want to keep that ID so it can associate and say, okay, completed means one thing, started means another thing, things like that. That's where that ID comes into play. Really, you could change the display of it. You can add on to the display and it's not going to affect too much, but you don't want to, because it's the action item, you don't want to go too crazy there. So keep that in mind. But the ID is where you cannot change it. Do not change it because this is how the Learning Record Store makes sense of it. So I'm going to come into here and I'm going to grab this ID right here. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go into storyline and make sure that I don't get rid of the quotes or the comma. I'm going to delete that and then paste in the new one. Now, if I paste in the new one, we have that good to go. So we have the verb, but we don't really have the object in this case. And the object is describing that verb. What did they express? And so I'm going to go in here and say learner expressed happiness about the page. And I can have that if they click on the like button or something. And there is a liked verb, but in this case, expressed happiness. If I want to have like a little happy face, sad face, if I wanted them to rate it, and then based on that, I wanted to say they expressed happy, they expressed sad, you could do something like this. Now, it does need to have an ID. That will get added automatically, so I don't even need to do anything here. So I'm going to click OK here. Then I'm going to go ahead and click OK there. This is not happening. It's going to send over the statement, but it doesn't know when to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and insert just a button here and just a random square. Let's change that color. I'm going to go into the home and I'm going to change that color, go into format, change that color to red there. And I'm going to select the drop down box and have this, when the user clicks on the button, it's going to send over that statement. All right, so I use the custom verb. Let's go ahead and publish this out and see how it actually gets reported over to the Learning Record Store. So I'm going to click on reporting and tracking, and let's just make sure that there is an ID, this activity ID. This is also important inside of a Learning Record Store because this is how it associates one activity, one learning interaction to another learning interaction as well. This is how, when you start to build custom reports, you need to have this ID to associate those two. Now, I am also sending it over to an external Learning Record Store, so I'm going to send this over to SCORM Cloud, but I'm also going to send it over to Watershed as just 2 points of data, basically, and then click OK, and then hit Publish. Now, depending on the size of your course, this may take a little while, but as soon as it's done publishing, I can go ahead and take that and I can upload it to SCORM Cloud. All right, so it's done publishing out, so I'm going to go ahead and click on Zip right here, and this will save it to my desktop. Now let's go into SCORM Cloud, and inside of the library, you can sign up for a free account of SCORM Cloud to be able to test this out. I use this all the time for SCORM and xAPI, but I'm going to go into Add Content, then Import SCORM and AICC Content, click on Browse, and then find that zipped course and click on Upload. Now if I click on Import, again, depending on the size of your course, this may take a little while, but as soon as it's done importing, I can go ahead and test this out. All right, so it's done importing, so let's go ahead and test this out here. I'm going to click on Launch. It's going to launch the course for me, and now it's going to have that red square. We added the trigger, so as soon as the learner clicks on the red square, it's going to send over that statement. Now, inside of the course itself, when the learner clicks on that, all of the actions are happening behind the scenes. So this may appear to the learner as though something didn't happen or something didn't work. So you may want to have like a message, or you may want to have some text that shows up or something saying that it's been submitted. Something like that, or you could have your triggers on the next button or a tab button or something like that. But so keep that in mind. If it appears like it's not working, it may look like a user error on the learner side. I'm going to go ahead and just close this out because I clicked on that already, and I want to see under View Registration Statement History, I want to see that actually being sent over. All right, when I published this out, it actually wasn't working because we're missing something here. I'm going to go back into this custom trigger, and I'm going to first of all delete on my desktop all of the published files. And let's go back into that trigger. And in that trigger, we need to have an ID. Now this ID is actually different. I thought it was the course ID, but the course ID is a little bit different as well. But we need to have the slide ID. So I'm going to go into the variables section, and I'm going to go ahead and just have the project ID. So in this case, the project ID, and then I'm going to have slash, inside of the quotes, slash, and then slide ID. How do I get that? How do I actually make up that? So I'm going to click OK, and then click OK here. And the way that I got it and identified what it was is by just adding a custom statement and then selecting like the page name or something like that, and then clicking on this plus xAPI. That's how I kind of came up with it. So project ID, and then it was actually randomly generated there in this case, but it could be if you're using like the slide title or something like that, could be something different. It just needs to have something. Right now it didn't have anything, which I think was causing a problem, and I wasn't getting that data sent over. So I'm just going to double check everything one more time, coming into my xAPI statement builder here, and make sure that I have all of this filled out. Everything looks good now. And let's click OK. Click OK here. And then let's publish this back out. So going back to the home page, I'm going to click on Publish and then publish this out to my desktop. Now, while that's publishing out, I'm also going to go into my library and I'm going to delete what's in my library right now so I can upload and have fresh data for when I upload this back here. So it's done publishing. Let's go ahead and click on Zip. Click on Save, and then now let's upload it to SCORM Cloud. So going into Add Content, Import SCORM Cloud, and then click on Import there. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Jeff, why didn't you just start over and change that up when you're publishing out? I think it's important sometimes to actually show the troubleshooting and to talk about what went wrong and what didn't happen as well. So hopefully you find that useful, of saying, oh, you forgot this, or this needed to have this in order for it to work. So that's the reason why I don't always edit those kind of mistakes out. I mean, everyone makes the mistake. The key is actually troubleshooting it and figuring out what was wrong. It's all uploaded now. Let's go ahead and click on Launch, and then let's click on Launch Course, and then let's click that and click Next. All right, so now I'm going to exit out of this and let's see if that got sent over. Yep, it did. So it was because that ID was missing, the reason why I didn't get sent over in the first place. And you can see right here, Jeff Batt expressed happiness about this page. And if I go into Watershed, let's hit refresh here. And there it is right there, Jeff Batt expressed. So you can use other verbs besides the default verbs inside of Storyline. So just make sure you pull them from the registry, you grab the ID, you grab the verb, you go into the Storyline trigger, and you update it through the custom little pop-up window there. So I'm curious, what other verbs would you actually use? Does Storyline need to expand their verbs, or do they have enough to begin with? And are you okay with just grabbing it from the registry? So comment down below and let me know if you want to see more verbs inside of there from Storyline. Also, don't forget to check out my website, learningdojo.ninja. You can check out previous blogs. You can also download templates, xAPI templates, and you can see all of my courses, everything from A to Z, Articulate Storyline, Adobe Captivate, xAPI Fundamentals, Articulate Rise, Custom SCORM, HTML5 video as well. And if you like this video, go ahead and like and subscribe to my channel, and you can always be notified of new videos that come out and everything. That really helps my channel as well. Well, that's all I have. So thanks everyone. I'll see you in the next one.